This is Julien, and this week's book is Disrupt You, Master Personal Transformation, Seize Opportunity, and Thrive in an Era of Endless Innovation by Samit. And this book here was actually recommended to me by the author, and what he talks about is that in order to survive and thrive in this era of endless innovation, you need to start thinking like a disruptor and set yourself on a disruptor's path to success. Okay, and we're going to break down what he means by this in a second, but before that, just to make this click in your mind, this here does not just apply to startup entrepreneurs or corporate employees. This applies to anyone looking to get more satisfaction out of their lives. Okay, you need to learn how to disrupt yourself and then, of course, disrupt the world. So what is disruption? Okay, the perfect illustration of how disruption works is actually a scene from the movie Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's a scene where Indiana Jones is challenged to a sword duel. Okay, and instead of participating in this duel, he simply reaches into his holster, pulls out his revolver, and shoots the swordsman dead. Okay, and what he says here is that disruption is to existing businesses and business models what Indy's revolver was to the sword. It instantly changes the way the world functions and the course of history. Okay, as soon as the revolver was introduced, guess what? It pretty much destroyed the marketplace for swords. Okay, and this is important to understand. When a technology or product is disruptive, it creates an entirely new market, consumer base, or user, and destroys or displaces the market for the technology it replaced. Okay, some examples of this: for example, the email disrupted postal mail. Wikipedia disrupted the traditional 12-volume encyclopedia. Napster, iTunes, and Spotify killed the album industry. Expedia, Priceline, Orbitz, and Travelocity wiped out the independent travel agency businesses. Uber, the taxi market, and these are just a few of just countless examples. Okay, as soon as those were introduced, they pretty much destroyed the marketplace for the previous technology. Okay, and nowadays, the pace of disruption has increased, as you probably realized, and anyone has the power to disrupt, and no one is immune to it. And when you hear this, disruption really brings with it a sense of doom and gloom. We tend to think of all these businesses and jobs as being lost, but in reality, disruption creates opportunity. Okay, and a disruptor is anyone who takes advantage of this opportunity by capturing the value that is released through disruption. Okay, and to make this clear too, understand that every single business will be disrupted sooner or later, and you can either embrace the disruptor's journey or become roadkill. Okay, and this all starts with what he calls self-disruption. Okay, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing themselves. You need to disrupt yourself first before disrupting the world around you. And what he says is that every company has a value chain that defines a business's success. And we can think of our own identities similarly as being formed by our internal value chains. Okay, they make us who we are, they guide the way we function in the world. For example, our research and development center takes input from our environment and perceives it as either an obstacle or an opportunity. The brain, our design and production center, dictates actions in response to our perceptions. We market and sell ourselves in the ways we present ourselves to the world, which are based on what we see as our personal strengths or limitations, and we distribute ourselves in the way we choose to spend our time and where we focus our energies. Okay, and when viewed from this framework here, the process of self-transformation becomes approachable. Okay, all you really need to do is analyze each link in your internal value chain and find the single link that's holding you back. Okay, and then simply make the changes there to disrupt yourself. Okay, so let's just go through the different links. The first one is disrupting your research and development links. What he says here is that the external voices in our lives become the research and development links in the value chain that make us who we are. Okay, we're getting all this input, all these external voices, and oftentimes we internalize and start believing those voices. Okay, for example, maybe at a young age, someone told you, no, this is impossible. You should not pursue this. You should not pursue your dream. You're not good enough. You're not deserving enough. You should maybe play it safer. You should do this because it's the right thing to do. It's not what you want to do, but hey, it's what you need to do. That there, success, is maybe not for you. Okay, and the questions you have to start asking yourself here is, when in your life have you started to believe those voices? What have they told you about yourself, and how are they holding you back? Okay, what holds most people back is actually their own beliefs that they are not good enough or deserving enough to be successful. You get what you believe you deserve, and you become what you believe you are. Okay, so start disrupting these limiting beliefs here. Okay, infinite possibilities are made available to you. Success is in reach. Okay, you're not cut off from that. So start questioning all that negative input you've been getting throughout your life. Okay, and moving forward, be very aware of the new input you're taking in. Okay, for example, what he says here is that lifelong learning is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for employment. Okay, start surrounding yourself with educational input. Okay, positive input. Input that tells you, guess what? You can do whatever you want. You can reach for the fucking sky, if you will. Okay, this is the first link. The second one is disrupting your design and production links. Okay, and this is the way that you approach problems and react to the world around you. Some questions to ask yourself: what emotions and actions are produced when you're confronted with a challenge or a problem? How do you react in stressful situations? Do you feel frustrated or defeated? Or can you change the way you think so that you can tackle problems with an open mind? Okay, and what you have to understand is that your reaction and resulting actions are completely different depending on your mindset. Okay, for example, someone could be confronted by a problem and feel sorry for themselves. They're like, oh, why is this happening to me? This is so horrible, and adopt a victim mindset. Someone else, they could be a little frustrated by it, but they could use that frustration as motivation. It's like, okay, here's a challenge, time to step it up. And, okay, those two people, their actions will be different because of their mindset. Okay, and just as a business can be transformed by changing the way it designs and produces its products, you can remap your neural networks to actually think differently. Okay, how you choose to think changes how your brain processes information. Number 3, disrupting your marketing and sales links. Okay, and what he says is that don't adapt your goals to conform to the world's view of your identity. Okay, the way we market and sell ourselves should not be determined by what others perceive of us. Okay, you're getting all this input, and people may tell you you're bad at sports. Okay, and then what do? You start believing that, and you start marketing yourself as the person who's bad at sports. Okay, don't let those external inputs dictate your identity. Okay, our lives and careers are determined by our acceptance or rejection of our perceived limitations. Okay, if you start buying into all these limitations that people impose on you, it's going to be very hard to be successful and to start disrupting the world, if you will. The fourth one is disrupting your distribution links. And this here can be thought of how we choose to spend our time and where we direct our focus. Okay, think about the way you spend your days. Are you devoting the time and energy necessary to achieve your dreams, or do you find yourself channel surfing on the couch every single night after work? Okay, could you find a way to use your time more effectively? The most successful people have just as many hours in the day as you. The only difference is that they took control of their time. Okay, your energy is a valuable resource. Distribute it wisely. And once you do this, you really can't go back. Okay, once you go from a limiting view of yourself and the world around you to a limitless view of yourself and the world around you, and you really optimize every single link in your internal value chain, guess what? You've successfully just introduced the revolver to the sword. Okay, you've taken the blinders off. You can't go back. You've successfully disrupted yourself. Now, building on this, the secret to survival in today's ever-changing business world is recognizing whether you or your company are the disruptors or the dinosaurs. And this is a very important distinction to make, and he compares it to a scene from the movie Jurassic Park 3. Okay, so there's a scene where the humans are trapped in the jungle in a fight between a Tyrannosaurus Rex and a Spinosaurus. And the two dinosaurs are so focused on attacking each other that they don't pay attention to the humans below, which are then, able to escape. And this phenomena here explains why oftentimes under-resourced startups not only survive, but also continually disrupt the dominant players in the market. Okay, big dinosaurs will always be too busy competing against other big dinosaurs to pay attention to the disruptors. So be careful, okay? Are you focused on the wrong competition? Ask yourself, hey, where are the disruptors here? There are always going to be disruptors, okay? And what he says is that there was a moment in the evolution of every great disruptive company where the dominant market leaders could have crushed their future competition, but they inevitably focused on the wrong competitors, okay? Think Sears, Blockbuster, Motorola, Polaroid, Tower Records, etc., etc. Okay, the business world is littered with the fossils and companies that failed to evolve. Disrupt or be disrupted, there is no middle ground. Now, what he recommends here is disrupting from within. Okay, and this concept is key. Instead of centering all planning on beating existing competition, Instead, center it on reinventing your industry or the structure of your businesses. And what you'll realize is that most structures are actually designed to suppress internal disruption. Okay, for example, at almost all large corporations, senior management is rewarded for achieving more of the same, and company leaders risk personal career extinctions when they venture too far off course. You could either make a bold move and risk your career being over, or just keep doing what you're doing. Play it safe and continue to get a fantastic compensation. That is, as long as your company lives, let's just say. So here what you have to start doing is challenging the status quo. Okay, if things are too comfortable, if you're not really changing or evolving, someone's going to come and disrupt your company. It's going to disrupt your industry, disrupt your business. Instead, do that to yourself. Ask yourself, what would I do right now if I was competing against myself? How could I disrupt my company? What could I do that this company is not currently doing? Okay, what are some of the problems? What are some of the, the weaknesses that we have? And don't be afraid of changing things up. Okay, over the course of time, you better be evolving as a company. Okay, and as an example, let's just say in terms of teaching dating advice for men, if you take Real Social Dynamics as a company and you look at the evolution of our business model, it's been continuously changing. Okay, in the beginning, say back in the day, a lot of our products were video products. Then with the internet, with torrents, with YouTube, guess what? Those video products are suddenly devalued. So instead, we start releasing free content on YouTube, and then we start selling stuff that you can't get on YouTube. For example, going to an event that we call the hot seat, or going to live programs, stuff that are more interactive, and those are now the big sellers. Okay, but guess what? With time now as well, some of those may be extinct, and we're gonna have to continuously switch things up. So no matter what business you're in, compete against yourself, disrupt yourself. Okay, and you can practice this too. What he says is that he tells his students to write down every single day 3 things they notice that could be improved. Okay, that is in terms of who they are, in terms of the world around them, or whatever business they're in. Okay, you can train your mind to start identifying problems and thinking of solutions. Okay, changing things up, evolving, improving. Okay, and students who maintain this routine, say for a year, start generating massive idea flows. Okay, and you can change your company, but guess what? Some of these ideas could become companies, in and of themselves. Okay, and again, the questions you should ask yourself is your world perfect? Does everything function smoothly at your job or company? Are all your friends enjoying the stress-free lives they imagined for themselves when they were young? If not, what's missing? How could you fix that? Are all the goods and services you use properly priced and easy to find? Okay, or any questions of the sort? And if the answer to any of these is no, then there is room for a disruptive idea. Okay, problems are just businesses waiting for the right entrepreneur to unlock the value. And a big misconception too is that we tend to think that these great disruptive ideas come from eureka moments. It's these intense moments of inspiration where suddenly the genius kicks in. But in reality, most discoveries come from the simple act of identifying life's problems. And more often than not, big ideas are simple solutions to small problems. Okay, now once you have your big idea, okay, start disrupting it. Your next step is to kill that big idea. Okay, the same with your business, start challenging it, the same with your idea. Whatever idea you have to disrupt your business, disrupt the idea. Okay, and if you can find a problem that would derail your idea, so will the marketplace. Okay, and the faster you can kill bad ideas, the quicker you can pivot to a successful one, and the more capital you will have left to focus on it. Okay, so do that before just launching into an idea. Too many people, they're like, oh my God, this idea is awesome, and they just run with it, and then they fail. Okay, so they waste time, they waste capital, and then they're fucked. Instead, get your idea and challenge it. Go to people who will challenge it as well. Look for help, and your goal here is to create what he calls a zombie idea. Okay, where no matter what is thrown at it, a zombie idea cannot be stopped or killed. Another interesting concept here is pivoting your energies, where in a constantly changing world, learning when to pivot is a skill that is useful for any business. Okay, changing courses, not just remaining on the same one, stubborn and just moving forward that way there. Okay, true disruptors aren't afraid to pivot. Pivoting is less of an admission of failure and more of a way to find new opportunities to be successful. Okay, all too often we just stay the course a little longer or do the same thing over and over again because trying any other approach would, be an admission of failure. let's just say. You're trying something, you kind of see, guess what, competitors are coming in, maybe your market's gonna die, okay? One example could be, say, taxi cabs or even Uber. You know, guess what? In a few years, with cars just driving themselves, that industry is probably gonna go down. And if you're not thinking now, okay, if you're watching this and you're an Uber driver, you might be like, oh fuck, if you're not thinking now, what am I gonna do 5, 10 years from now when this industry is gone? You're not pivoting, okay? Start pivoting, think in advance. Ask yourself, what could ruin Uber? Okay, whatever you're in, what could disrupt this industry? Okay, and for most businesses, okay, as a little side note, pivoting is less about making big changes in direction and more so about adjusting, okay, to the ever-changing market conditions. These little adjustments over time, okay, where it's a back and forth movement of minor adjustments where you test, you verify, you adjust. Okay, test, verify, adjust, and if the small adjustments don't do the trick, okay, that's when you look at what you've built and you see if there's any traction or proof they'll be more successful in pursuing in a different direction. Okay, and unless you are diligent about always challenging what you know and what your market wants, a newer, more nimble upstart will come along as you once did and disrupt your business. Okay, every big business that's been disrupted, guess what? At some point, they were disruptors. Okay, they were considered innovators, but not anymore. They become the dinosaurs. Okay, so pivoting here is not an admission of failure, and it's not the end of the disruption process. Okay, it's just the beginning of the next leg in your journey. Another concept here is what he calls OPM, okay, which stands for other people's money, where in every new business or disruptive idea, sooner or later, you're going to require additional funding or just funding in general. Okay, and this is a huge excuse for entrepreneurs. It's like, I just don't have the money. I don't have the funds. Okay, and what he says is that it is possible to disrupt the funding process to uncover my favorite kind of money, OPM. Okay, and OPM is not just about taking other people's money and refusing to pay it back. It is more so about learning how to position your idea, okay, your zombie idea, so that it is more valuable to the supplier of the OPM than the cash they are spending. Okay, you have to get creative here, and the secret to it is to find someone else's problem and make your product, your disruptive idea, the solution. Okay, solve for others to solve for you. So these here are the big ideas. Okay, he also goes into all the different techniques of disruption as well as lists countless examples. So again, if you resonate with this way of thinking, I highly recommend checking out the book, but truly understand that disruption really has no limits. Okay, our future, our world's future is far more malleable and controllable than most people realize, and the joy of disruption comes from accepting that we all live in a temporal state. Okay, things are always changing. We're all born into an imperfect world filled with opportunities for improvement. Okay, you need to train yourself to identify these opportunities because they're always going to be there. Okay, the moment you think everything is improved and everything is perfect, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Okay, and Disrupt You, okay, he kind of concludes with this, is only the beginning of the process. It's a call to action. That's what this book is, a cry for positive change. It's supposed to inspire you to transform yourself, your industry, and the world. Okay, and this is really up to you. You know, you can remain in the status quo, you can just do what's comfortable, or you can start challenging your beliefs. Challenge the links in your internal value chain. Okay, challenge the links in your business. Challenge the links in the world. Okay, start disrupting. Again, you're either disrupting or you're being disrupted. And remember this too, history doesn't remember those who maintain the status quo. Glory comes from being a disruptor. Okay, so once again, if you resonated with this, highly recommend checking out the book. Look below in the comments for next week's book. And as always, until next time.